Hey everybody, welcome back to Chortle Cast. I'm Jake, and with me as always, Steven, the Deadpan Man, the Far Cry New Dawn guy, and something about Metroid. Steven, hey.
Something about apocalyptic shooters, because apparently that's like my genre this year.
That's a big pull for you this year. Are you getting Rage too? Because that's another one.
I'm thinking about it. I don't know. It doesn't look overly interesting to me.
Would we call Anthem an apocalyptic shooter?
I wouldn't consider it apocalyptic because the premise of the world, it is not Earth and it's not even our galaxy, so that's just kind of...
It's just constantly in a state of chaos.
It's just, pretty much.
Yeah, there was no order before chaos. There was just chaos. Anyway, Steven likes those. If you didn't know, this is ChortleCast, the official podcast of Chortle Games, where we talk about video games, TV shows, movies, anime, whatever the heck we want to talk about. We got a great show for you this week. We're going to talk about Tetris BR. I'm going to cry about Kingdom Hearts a little bit. Steven's going to talk about Metro Exodus, Far Cry New Dawn, and Dead Cells. Some stuff we've been playing. And then we're also going to talk about the new Frozen 2 trailer, because I have thoughts and feelings. We're going to talk about why Sony is not attending E3, and then we're going to be talking all about the Nintendo Direct. So a lot of big announcements that came out of that. Some that are exciting, some that are, underwhelming, but mostly exciting.
Right. Yeah,
anyway,
there's some good stuff there.
There's some good stuff.
But I hope you're not allergic to tomatoes or sugar, because we got a lot of ketchup for you.
Badoom. Is there mayonnaise and ketchup? What did you say?
Ketchup or tomato and sugar.
There you go, tomato and sugar. It sounded like you said mayonnaise and sugar, because we got a lot of ketchup for you, and I was
I might have, because honestly, I'm going off of 2 hours of sleep right now, and I'm exhausted. But also, a coworker that I went to lunch with him right before recording this, and I remembered how much he likes mayonnaise and how much I hate mayonnaise, so I'm still hurt by it.
I understand.
Yeah. I don't know.
Steven went to see Walk the Moon last night. Drove there last night. Saw them and drove back.
6 hours away.
That's crazy,
Spent
Steven.
12 hours in a car.
That's crazy talk.
Yeah, it was good. It was fun. Never again, but it was fun.
Never again. Next time I'll get a hotel, but
yeah,
I'm glad y'all had fun. All right, who wants to kick off this catch-up time that we have? Because I've got really one game I want to talk about, and then Kingdom Hearts is going to need its own episode to really talk about it. So
you go ahead, because I'm probably going to, talking about Metro and Far Cry, that's going to be a bit of a rabbit hole for me, and you're going to have to stop me. So you go ahead first.
Right, I'll go ahead and knock this out. All right, well, so this Saturday for our live stream, we did a lot earlier than we normally would. We did like a mid-afternoon live stream, and or early afternoon live stream. And me and my wife, Leigh Allison, we played Tetris 99, which is the Tetris Battle Royale game that was announced in this Nintendo Direct that we're going to talk about later.
Dumbest thing. It's so dumb.
So on paper, when you say to someone, hey, you've heard about these Battle Royale games like Fortnite and stuff, it's a
meme
Tetris
come to life.
now.
It's a meme come to life, and it was like, the joke on the internet was, Tetris is going to get a Battle Royale next. And it was like, ha, that's funny. It would never come to that. We don't live in that world. Well, guess what, guys? Ladies and gents? We live in that world.
We are in an alternate reality now where Tetris BR is a thing. But, Steven, let me tell you, it's actually pretty fun.
It looked fun.
So me and Leigh Allison had a good time streaming it. We were goofing. We were having a great time. After we quit, the Tetris effect is real. I saw blocks everywhere. I was trying to fit things into shapes. I wanted to come back. I've been craving to play it. I'm probably going to play it when we get off here while I'm waiting for footage to download and load and all this good stuff. It's actually really fun. And
just imagine
it's free.
The Tetris
it's
effect.
There. If you have a Switch, you can get one. Right, you can get it right now and play. And it's just... It's great.
Just imagine the actual Tetris effect you'd get from playing the Tetris Effect VR.
Oh, I know. I know.
That'd be nuts.
Well, it sounds like we're going to do a Let's Play of that, since Anna said she'd like to play that. So we may
have to
be
sweet talk her into doing
the
that.
Tetris Effect.
She's
Let's Play
a
later.
shy gal. Yeah.
But anyway, anyway, it's a lot of fun.
Yeah.
So I enjoyed myself.
Yeah, you did pretty good. You had some not so goods, but you were top 14 was the highest you got?
I think the highest I got was actually top 14.
Yeah, that's what I said.
There were just I had a lot of issues on the front end because I am a casual Tetris player. Like, I've played Tetris before. I understand a little bit of the basics of Tetris. But there's a lot of nuance to the game that you don't really learn. Like, a huge tip that I learned is you can press L and hold a piece. That was a game changer.
Ruthless that told you that one, right? Shout out to Ruthless.
Shout out to Ruthless, my coach. That was a game changer because I started to save long pieces for when I finally opened up a crack into the attack blocks that are coming at me from other people. And I could make a huge chunk in that, and oh man, it was great.
What made me laugh was seeing you, like, when you had gotten to like the top 30, and you were fighting off the attack blocks, and I would just look on the screens, and correct me if this isn't how this works, but there would be some guys that looked like they had just started because their screen was just clean.
It's so low.
Yeah,
it's a weird pacing. And I guess my frustration at this point is I don't understand what gets you selected to be attacked. Like, if you're a high-scoring person early on, does that mean you're going to get a lot of, like, kickback early?
Well, have you learned how to attack others yet?
Well, so that's the thing. When you complete a Tetris line, that attacks a random person and gives them a Tetris, like a full block. That lifts them up.
Gotcha.
So, like, what would happen to me a lot was, from what I can tell, it's usually like there's 3 people attacking a person at any given time. Right. And if say I do 2 Tetris lines, I'm sending 2 Tetris lines to someone else. But say there's 3 people, we're attacking you, Steven. We all get 2 or 3 Tetris lines at once.
And then I'm done.
And that ends up being 6 lines on you instantly.
Yep.
And so that was happening to me a lot. And so that's really
quite
hard.
A lot.
It's really hard to deal with because you're already stressed out because you're trying to make it work. And then you shoot up 6 rows and suddenly you don't have any time to make decisions. You have to just like go.
Yep.
And so that's when holding pieces and having the right pieces held and all that can really come into play. So it's pretty good. Like, before I did it, Steven, I texted you and I was like, should I do this? Would this be funny? And you were like, are you good at Tetris? And I was like, I mean, I feel like I am, but I know I'm not like a championship Tetris person or anything. Right. And you were just like, let's just see how you do, because anyway. But I got better. I think I could get even more better and really be entertaining to watch. But I don't know. It's fun. It's a lot of fun.
The music in that game was banging. Like, I need to find that actual song. It was a lot of fun.
Tetris has always had some banging music, so it's good. Anyway, I highly recommend it. I know it's a joke. Like, it seems like a joke. It kind of is a joke, but it actually is really fun. So if you have a Switch, it's free. Just get it. There's no microtransactions that I can tell. Like, there's nothing. It's free. Just go play it. Have a good time. Yeah. The other thing I did this week, I beat Kingdom Hearts. I'm going to be gone all next week on a trip, so I'm taking my Switch, so I'm probably going to play Tetris BR. I'm probably going to play some more Groove. But I knew I wasn't going to be able to take my PlayStation, and I'm coming back Thursday night. So that means Friday, Anthem comes out, and I'm going hard on Anthem this weekend, or next weekend, Steven. Or I guess it is this weekend. This weekend, Steven, I'm going hard on Anthem, so I hope you're ready to go hard on Anthem. Because Lee Allison's going to be busy all Saturday, so I'm going to get up Saturday and play and play hard. So I hope you're ready. But anyway, all that to say, I had to beat Kingdom Hearts this weekend, or else it was not going to happen. So I got the Ultima Keyblade, which is the most powerful Keyblade you can get. That was like a goal of mine. Like, I wanted to have that before I went on to finish everything.
Right.
The last 4 or 5 hours of the game really could have been the whole game because everything from the previous games kind of set the board for what needed to happen.
Right.
And really the meat of the game is you going to all the Disney worlds, learning some tidbits about the bad guys and kind of what they're trying to do. But we all know what they're trying to do. They're trying to create, they're trying to open Kingdom Hearts, and they need all of us to do it. So you're also kind of traveling, trying to learn how to awaken Vin and Roxas, and how to save Aqua. But basically, you traveled through all the Disney worlds until Riku and Mickey. Minor spoilers, or spoilers for Kingdom Hearts 3 if no one else had idea, just so you know. Mickey and Riku eventually get in a really bad spot trying to save Aqua. And so Sora has to go save them. And so he hasn't learned, it's called the power of waking. He hasn't learned that yet, but it's like do or die right now. Like, we got to go. So that kind of kicks everything off, and then from there, you're going straight through, and a lot of great things happen. A lot of great reunions happen. You basically, so there's 13 bad guys, right? And then Xehanort. So the 13 bad guys are people from past games, and basically they break up into groups. So like people like the side characters from Game A. They're fighting the side, the main bad guys from Game A, and so you go help them fight those 3 bad guys. And each person, as you defeat them, like everything stops. You have a moment, almost like in Assassin's Creed, when you have like a I don't know what, like he stabs them and they have a little conversation before they die. That's kind of what happened with each character. It was really sweet. There were some really sweet moments. There were a lot of the villains were like, I've been so sick of being used by this guy. Thank you for freeing me, or something. It was really, really emotional. A lot of characters who hadn't shown up yet kind of made an appearance in this final fight. Sora goes to each fight and saves everyone and everything. I don't want to get too deep into it because it could take too long. But anyway, you eventually get to Xehanort. You fight him. This is all I'm going to say because I don't want to go too deep into it, but this is my biggest grief with the game right now. So I want to mention it, and this is a major spoiler that I'm about to drop right here. So if you just kind of been tentatively listening, this is a big spoiler. Go away for like skip down for like minutes. A minute or two. Yeah. You get to Xehanort. You've beaten all his bad guys. So he's like, okay. He's trying to form this. It's called the Keyblade. Steven, you watched the videos. You know what you understand. He's trying to form the Keyblade. It has an X with a blade, but it's pronounced Keyblade.
Of course.
He's trying to form
the real Keyblade.
He's trying to the real Keyblade. He's trying to form that, and to do it, he basically forms 13 other keys that he can combine to make that one. It's not how he did it the first time. I don't understand the logistics of how this works. Just like I said, Kingdom Hearts, you have to take what they say as fact and just keep moving. Anyway, we've beaten everybody, but except for him. So one more person has to die for the last Keyblade to be made, so he can make the real Keyblade. So he had kidnapped Kairi earlier in a battle, and he like basically pulls her out and dangles her by her head, and is like, she'll do. And there's a slow motion moment where Sora like dashes up to like try and save her, but he kills Kairi right in front of him, and he makes the last Keyblade. And then of course Mickey and Riku, who are the only people that are still with you at this point, they go and try to stop him. But anyway, so Kairi's dead, which for me is like very emotionally devastating. Anyway, you go on, you fight him. It's crazy. No one turns into a boat, Steven. It does kind of do there's a cool Inception fight with Xehanort. He like bends buildings on top of each other and stuff, and it's very, very sweet. There are a lot of sweet moments in this game. Like Donald and Goofy are with you there. There's a really sweet moment that made me just like love Donald and Goofy. There's just too much I can talk about. I don't need to go on. Anyway, I beat Xehanort, and he basically, you beat him, and he's not dead yet. But you know when someone's just like done, Steven, they can't move. Yeah. They're too tired to even stand
defeated.
Up. That's where he's at, and basically he and Sora have this whole debate. Because Xehanort's like, the whole time I've just wanted to make the world pure again by engulfing it in darkness and starting over. And Sora's like, that's cool, dog, but you're not the person who can make that decision. And anyway, Ericus, Steven, do you remember Ericus?
No.
For those of you that are maybe not into the Kingdom Hearts lore, Xehanort trained with this other Keyblade master called Ericus, and they were the same age. They're buddies. If you've seen any of the Kingdom Hearts trailer, it's the two kids playing chess. It's them. Xehanort killed Ericus in Birth by Sleep. Anyway, he comes back. He's been hiding in plain sight. And basically he's like, hey Xehanort, hey buddy, friendship wins. You know what I'm saying? Friendship beats everything. Let's go home. Let's go. Come on, buddy. Let's go home. And so they fade into the light, and that's it. And he's done. He's dead. He's gone.
Okay.
The gang closes Kingdom Hearts, and everybody goes home. Way too quickly, everyone's like, Mickey is like, whoo! Well, gee dang it, guys, we did it! Hot dog! Let's go eat some ice cream or something. Yeah! And Sora's like, a bitch, no. Kairi. What about Kairi? What are we going to do about Kairi? And they're like, Sora, you can't use the power of waking to save someone like that. It's not how it works. Like, we don't know what'll happen to you. And he's like, Kairi being taken away from me was what started my journey, which it is. It is. He really got motivated when Kairi got kidnapped. And he was like, ever since then, I've just been trying to get back to her. And she became a Keyblade master and everything. Like, he's like, I finally thought we were going to be able to be together and be here together finally. And he took that away from me. He's like, so I'm going after her no matter the cost. And so he pops out his Keyblade, he opens a portal, he goes through, and that's it, Steven. That's it.
Yep.
The credits roll, and this is where it gets worse, Steven. It gets worse. So the credits roll, they show you all these cute little moments in the Disney worlds, and then they show you kind of what everyone else is doing. And so they bring back, there's one person from the past games that they hadn't rescued yet. They show her being rescued in the last scene. Riku actually comes to pick her up, which I thought was interesting. But anyway, he takes her, and they all go to Destiny Islands, Steven. And they're all on the beach, they're all hanging out, they're throwing frisbees. Like the whole Kingdom Hearts gang is there. And everybody looks up at some point, and they look up to where Sora and Kairi always sat. And Sora and Kairi are there, and they're looking at each other, and Kairi's crying, she's smiling, and then Sora does he doesn't do the Thanos snap, but he got snapped. You know what I'm saying, Steven? Like, that's what happened to him. He fades to dust. Okay. And then it ends. Then it really ends. And I'm so mad because it's implied that he saved Kairi. But Steven, I don't know that. I needed to see the moment where he saved her, and they said, "You're safe, Kairi," and then Sora faded.
Go on the internet, and they'll tell you. They'll decipher everything.
Who will do what?
The internet. Just find out from them.
I did. I stayed up probably another hour after I beat it, reading several people explaining the ending, and everyone was like, "It looks like he saved Kairi, but something happened to him," and so the secret movie at the end shows Sora waking up in another Square Enix game. I forget what it's called. It's like The World That Never Was or something like that. The World Ends With You. That's it.
Really?
Huh?
The World Ends With You? Really?
Yes, really. So that was in Birth and Dream Drop Distance. That world was in there. But it appears that he wakes up in that place.
Interesting.
We don't know why. I don't understand any of that, but that's where he is. And then it shows Riku waking up, which is, again, just weird because it's implied that when the team learned that Sora got snapped, Riku went after him. So Riku is waking up in Vernum Rex, which in Kingdom Hearts, when you're in the Toy Story world, there's this fictional Final Fantasy game called Vernum Rex, and it looks like Riku, Sora, and Kairi, but if they were in a Final Fantasy game. And so Riku wakes up in that world, and the main character there, who looks like he just snapped, like he just lost his mental state, is out there. He's there with Riku, and then there's a hooded figure like from the Organization 13. I'm not sure which one world he is in because they both look very similar. But he's looking at the moon, and he makes a heart shape with his hands, and then that's the end of the secret ending. So Kingdom Hearts is not done. Xehanort and his storyline is done, but it's not. And dang it, Steven, that stupid mobile game became the most important narrative arc that you had to know in this stupid game.
Yep. Because
the other ending basically brought back the characters from that game, and the main villain, the villain who I assume is going to be the villain for the next at least 3 Kingdom Hearts games, was revealed there. Do you remember, again, major spoilers, Steven, do you remember in that that Kingdom Hearts thing that we watched, there was the guy, Zigbar, he's the guy who's got the eye patch and the scar.
Yeah.
So he ends up being somebody from, like, this mysterious character from the first game that no one knew who he was or what his purpose was. He ends up being the secret bad guy, who's been somewhat guiding even Xehanort this whole time.
Okay.
So I don't know what that means for anything, but yeah, that stupid mobile game ended up being really, really important to the plot. However, this is the last thing I'm going to say about Kingdom Hearts. I really should do a whole episode on this.
Yeah.
I know, I'm
We've
sorry.
We've not done a whole episode right now.
I'm sorry. The last thing I'm going to say, there's a moment when you're at the Keyblade graveyard, which that graveyard is made in the mobile game. Like, that's where the first Keyblade War happens, and that's why there's so many Keyblades there. There's a moment where you're being overwhelmed, and Sora tries to, like, break ranks and try to be the hero of the day. And the main character, if you can call him that, from the mobile game, like the main hero, appears in front of Sora, and he's like, "Need some help?" And suddenly, all of the Keyblades in the Keyblade graveyard, like, form a mass, and Sora is, like, surfing on one Keyblade as this mass of Keyblades, like, guides him, and he starts fighting the darkness or whatever. How you do this, once it loads in, you have these triangle button, like, superpower like attacks that are done by triangle.
Yeah.
And you can get a bunch of them to, like, stack up. So as soon as you come out of the cutscene, you have, like, 1,000,000 stacked up. And it says, use the power of these mysterious heroes to defeat the darkness. Steven, they had, if not all, a crap ton. They had every username from that game. So, like, each attack was someone's username. So, like, I don't know what really happened in the fight because I was watching for my name in the username attacks. I mean, there had to have been at least 500, maybe even 1,000 attacks that were literally names from the game. So I don't know who got selected for that. I don't know how they got that. I don't know if it changes for every person who plays it. I was blown away, Steven. And I was just like, okay, that game earned its right to exist. Like, that was a cool moment. But anyway, it became a lot more important than I thought it would be. But whatever. Okay, that's all I'm going to say about Kingdom Hearts. I will, one day when we just don't have anything, I will really dive into Kingdom Hearts and gripe. But
that was at least 15 minutes.
How much was it?
That was at least 15 minutes.
I'm sorry, okay? It's hard, okay? It's hard. I'm super locked into that.
I understand.
Okay, talk about Metro and Far Cry, New Dawn.
So I'm going to talk about Dead Cells first. I bought it. It's fun. It won Best Action Game at the Game Awards, I think.
Yeah.
And I'm not very far into it, and with roguelikes, they usually start out pretty slow, but I really like it so far. It's got good gameplay. I bought it for the sake of the road trip, so I'd have something to play on the way back.
Mm-hmm.
I like it a lot. It's fun. Okay, moving on. That's how you are time efficient.
I'm
Jake.
sorry. Hey, look, I'm sorry, Steven. I got emotional.
Oh, I get it. 100%. If it was something like Marvel stuff or Division, I would talk for probably 20.
I'm upset that I'm not upset, but I can't believe it's not over. Like, there will be another Kingdom Hearts game potentially in the next 3 years. Like, I think there might be a Switch exclusive game that comes in the next 2 or 3 years, and it'll be whatever Sora and Riku are doing right now. Anyway, sorry. Go, Steven. This is Metroid time.
Metro, not Metroid.
I said Metro.
You said Metroid.
No, I'm trying very hard to make sure I'm saying Metro because I want to say Metroid.
Metroid is never coming.
Okay, Metro time.
Yeah. So I'll start with Far Cry.
Okay, Far Cry time.
Because it's easier to talk about. It's more of the same. The story so far I'm not really intrigued with because it's just kind of, hey, remember this character, remember that character. The new villains aren't interesting. Yeah, pretty much. Like the new villains aren't that interesting. They're just bullies, which the Far Cry villains since 3 have always been really complex and had a lot of depth and character. And
these don't.
These don't.
Yeah.
The gameplay is pretty solid. Having loot changes a lot, where you have to craft better guns. It feels appropriate in Far Cry, or at least where Far Cry is headed. Unfortunately, every year we stray further and further from Far Cry 3, but I've come to terms with it, I guess. But it's a good way to encourage exploration, because exploring, finding stashes and loot caves and stuff is that much more valuable because you get resources to upgrade your base and resources to craft better weapons. So stuff matters. It's co-op, which is a lot of fun. I played with Kaylin, who is our mod on YouTube, and that was a lot of fun. Which that's really the charm of it too, is just being able to play in co-op. They added some small touches, like when you liberate an outpost, it shows you and your co-op partner like standing on top of the outpost and does a cool little. Yeah, like they actually show off your characters more, which is very much a welcome change. Mm-hmm. They added more replayability where you can salvage an outpost, basically forfeit it to the enemies, so you have to recapture it. But every time you do that, the difficulty goes up.
That's kind of cool.
And you get resources each time you scavenge it or retake it. So it's a cool way to test the equipment you've gotten. There are these things called expeditions, which take you to outside of Hope County. We did one that was a beached aircraft carrier in Florida. It feels kind of like a arcade map, where it's very isolated. You go in, do the thing, and you extract. But it's AAA quality where it feels like it's a story mission.
Right.
So those are pretty cool. And those also can increase in difficulty level. So there's a lot of scaling in this game to add more longevity.
That's nice.
It's nice, but it's funny how Metro and Far Cry came out on the same day. And they're similar in a lot of ways. But Metro shows why in a lot of ways Far Cry trying to add that longevity is a bad thing. Because there is such a thing as playing a game and just overstaying your welcome. Absolutely, there's such a thing as games. Just you play them, you get the experience out of them. You may play through the story again or something, or you increase the difficulty or something like that. But for a game like Far Cry, and 5 had this problem as well. For a game like Far Cry 5 or New Dawn, to expect you to play more after you've beaten the story is it's not a good thing. For example, and this is why I mentioned Far Cry first, because Metro does a lot of this stuff correctly. In Metro, normally, like I played through 2033 and Last Light on the channel. Those games were linear, entirely linear. So it was a set path, traditional FPS campaign. This game is a mixture of linear and non-linear. It's linear up until the point where you find the train, and then you do a mission on the train or something, and then you find yourself at Volga, I think is what it's called, which is a large map by Metro standards that has a lot of rivers and stuff. And you have, I think, 2 or 3 missions to do there, but you explore the map at your own pace. And so you can find upgrades that are permanently on your character that way. Like, for example, I was told by Duke, who was one of the characters, and I'll get into the story in a second. Duke is one of the Spartans that comes with you. I met with him when he was doing a recon thing, and he was like, hey, there's a group of bandits that are capturing people and holding them ransom or whatever. You might want to check that out. And that was one of like 4 things he told me about, and none of those 4 things were the story. So I went to that camp, and then I found a safe house next to it. Went into the safe house, crafted some ammo, cleaned my guns, a lot of that upkeep stuff. This game, honestly, like from a large scheme of the large scheme of things, is like a combination of Last of Us and Red Dead Redemption 2. But it does it so well. So I was sorry, I thought I heard something. I was cleaning my guns and crafted some ammo and stuff to improve the performance, and then I slept till nighttime at that safe house. And so I went to the bandit outpost, and a lot of them were asleep because it was nighttime. And I started picking them off one by one, using the cover of darkness, and I saved these guys. And they were a part of a cult that has taken over Volga, that believes technology is of Satan. And it's funny, on the stream that I played, I was rowing my boat through a church, and it was like a drive-through cult, because I just rowed my boat in there, and they were like, "Oh, technology is the devil, heathens," and it was just like, okay, let me back it up. And I tried to back out of the building, but I couldn't. But so I saved these 2 guys, and they're looking at me, and they're like, "Oh, you're a heathen. Oh, are you going to kill us too?" and all this kind of stuff. And then one of them was like, "Hey, let me thank you through a way other than just saying thank you." And he gives me this key, and he says that it unlocks a door where a lot of people would go and take their technology as a means of, getting it out of their lives. They would just pile their technology there. And he was like, "I'm sure you can find something of use there." That was a side quest thing that I didn't have to do. And that key that I got only through those means unlocked a door in the final mission second to final mission in Volga, where I found night vision goggles.
Oh, that's nice.
And I have those for the rest of the game.
Wow, that's cool.
Yeah, so this game gives you opportunities to find upgrades, and you find them very dynamically.
Right.
And it doesn't feel like, you could play the entire game and not find night vision goggles. Or you could find them in the first mission if you put in the work like I did. There are various upgrades to your mask, to your armor, to your wrist thing. Like, I have a compass on my wrist now. I've got a improved filter so I can breathe longer with my filters on my mask, and I've got ammo pouches on my body armor so I can carry more ammo. And all that stuff was things I found by exploring the map. And it was all optional, which is really cool. But one of the things that stood out to me the most, speaking of this cult, I was walking around. There are two stories here, and they're pretty quick. But I was walking around, and I saw these fishermen. They weren't armed, but they look at me, and they were like, "Oh man, by the look of your armor, you're a heathen, aren't you?" It's just really funny wording. And so they were like talking to me like, "Oh yeah, you know, all that technology stuff's of the devil. You know, we're not of that life." And so I turned on my flashlight, and and they were like, Satan's light. And they were like hiding away from me because I was pointing a flashlight at them. So I didn't kill those guys because they were non-hostile, but I could have.
Right.
And so I left them alone. And then later on, I was scouting, trying to find this little girl's teddy bear, which again, optional quest, but I found it just by exploring.
Yeah.
And also I found another one of the Spartans. I found him an acoustic guitar, so he could play music on the train, and all this is optional.
That's cool.
And so I found these two guys that were armed, and they were part of the cult, and I was listening in. And you know, in this game you really feel like you're just better than everyone in such a way of like the humans, because you know, they call you the Spartans, you're the Metro Rangers, you're like the best of the best that survived in Russia. You're like special forces basically. And so it's getting close to dusk. And so I'm, you know, going through the tall grass, following this music that I'm hearing, and I hear these guys talking, and I've got my revolver trained in on them, ready to take the shot. It's got a suppressor, it's got a sniper stock, it's basically a rifle, and I could drop them at any second. And they came up as red, so that means I'm supposed to think that if I approach them, they shoot me. So I was listening to them talk, and there was an older guy and a younger guy, and I deduced based on listening to these two random NPCs talk that they were father and son. And the father, they were listening to music, and the father was like, "Have you ever heard music before, son? Like this is from when I was growing up." And the son was like, "Dad, you're giving into the heathen's temptations. Like technology is bad. You need to stay away from it." And so I lowered my gun, got out of the tall grass, and walked up to them. And once they saw me, they turned around. They're like, "Oh shoot!" And they pointed their guns at me, and I waited. And then the father was like, "Hold on, stand down. You, by the look of your armor, you're not from here, and but you seem like you're well behaved." And then he's like talking to his son. He's like, "See, not everybody's evil." And he starts talking about his life and starts saying like, "Yeah, his mother passed away right after we got involved in this stupid cult nonsense, but I can't leave him. He's my son. And even though I want nothing more than to get away from this place, I'm here because this is where he feels like he needs to be." And I met these two characters. These were people that I met that were
scary.
random NPCs.
That's scary.
I could have killed them.
Yeah.
And not even thought for a second about it. And that is kind of... And I walked into the safe house after I talked to them, and I heard a gunshot. And the father was like, "What'd you do? You broke it." The son had shot the radio. And was like, You're lucky I'm not gonna like give you up to the elders and stuff like that." And so it was just one of those moments where it was like, wow, this was a completely optional exploration thing that I did, because you know I explored everywhere in the world, but it could have gone so many ways. I could have sniped them from afar and never even learned their story. I could have never even run into them, or I could have just gone guns blazing and just killed them, or I could have met these people. And that is what makes, one of the things that makes Metro and the way it does linear versus non-linear so well, is that everything you do matters. Like in Far Cry New Dawn, I do enjoy, you know, finding materials, doing outposts to get materials, and then redoing the outposts to get more experience materials and stuff. But ultimately, none of that feels like it matters.
Right.
Like it's all meant to keep you playing the game, and it's fun. But with Metro, it's like you are always moving towards a point where things are like everything you do is important. And like, even though I'm never going to see those characters again, there was a connection made where it was like, wow, that was a really cool little detail that they put in the world, because this world, because it's not so open, it's got personality. And that was awesome. And so that was just the first of the nonlinear areas. There are 3 total, I think, and I just got to the second one, but I'm not going to talk about that. But last thing I'll talk about, the characters are really, really people say that they're lovable idiots, and that's kind of true, because everyone sounds dopey because the voice acting is terrible. Right. Which is my only gripe with this game.
Yeah, I tuned in for a little bit, and I was just like, oh man, I could do a better Russian accent than these guys.
Yeah. That's my only gripe with the game, is that the voice acting is just it's not good. It sounds like one guy doing all of the characters, even the women. But the characters are interesting. It honestly reminded me of Red Dead Redemption 2, because you've got this band of misfits who is just trying to find a home, trying to survive. And by doing story missions a certain way, some of them can die. That guy named Duke that I mentioned earlier, the mission that I was doing to leave Volga, I did the mission stealthily, and we got out and escaped, and then I got an achievement that said Duke. And so I looked at what it was, and it said Duke survives. And so it was like, oh shoot, he could have died on this mission. I had no idea.
Yeah.
So the characters are interesting. You can go and talk to them whenever you want. That guy named Stepan, who's the one I found the guitar for, when I was on the train between missions, I went and talked to him, and he was trying to flirt with this lady whose daughter I found the teddy bear for. And he was like asking her about her husband and what happened. And it was just this really emotional story where the wife was like, the mom was like, I told her that he was going to the market or something, but I started crying afterward, and she comforted me, and I think she knew the whole time. She's always known. And it was just this really like emotional, touching moment. Yeah. And in that same moment, you can sit down and play the guitar with Stepan and just get to know these characters. And it's one of those things where it's like, man, I wish that there were more games like God of War, like Metro, like Spider-Man, that focus more on making an impact while they're there, rather than just being there as long as they possibly can. Yeah. And there's a place for games like that. I mean, I love looter games like Anthem, Division, Destiny, all that kind of stuff. I love those. But man, story-driven games like Last of Us, Metro, God of War, all of that, we need more of that, because those are the games that stick with you. Uncharted is a good example of that, which I'm playing through on the channel right now. But I would definitely recommend, if I do stream it again, Jake, I know the voice acting is terrible, but watch the stream, because the game. I texted you guys. I said, if this game had better voice acting, it would be a Game of the Year contender, and I stand by that, because I think it does what Red Dead was trying to do with the gang. I think it does that better. It's more awkward because of the voice acting, and the dialogue writing's not great. But
if you look at it on paper, it's great.
Well, the implementation of it is better, I think. And that's kind of Metro in a nutshell. The story is awkward because of the dialogue, but the gameplay, the immersion, and the execution of a lot of things is incredible.
The stuff about the NPCs is really interesting, especially the ones that were marked in red that like you should have just shot like outright. Yeah. The fact that you gave it a shot and was like, it's just these two, they can't kill me, let me just walk out and see what happens. And the fact that they aimed their guns at you, but then since you waited, they were like, well, hold up, he seems okay, hey, what's going on, you know, that they talk to you. That's like to a scary degree cool. But,
and Metro has always done a little bit of that, where the NPCs, it emphasizes the fact that this is in a world where humans aren't around a lot anymore. And so there are those times when you will see a person that has a lot more to say when you could have just ended them. Right. And it makes you think about every trigger pull, beyond the fact that, you know, ammo is scarce and supplies are limited, but like the trigger pulls not only in what will this cost me, but also who am I killing? Yeah. And it asks those questions in a way that you don't really see it until you have an experience like that. And then it's like, oh man, what story does this person have to tell that I just shot in cold blood? And a lot of people will surrender. Like if you get the upper hand on a group of bandits, they'll throw their gun up and say, "I surrender, please." And you can execute them or knock them out or just leave them alone.
Wow.
So they behave more human than just, the enemies that run at you, life to the wind.
Yeah.
And you gun down. And so that's a really interesting thing that I'm glad they did with Exodus. But I'm not far in the game. Like I said, I only just beat the first open area.
Right.
But,
I mean, that's a third of the game, it sounds like.
Possibly. The desert area seems way bigger.
Gotcha.
So I'm wondering. But I'm loving it. I think it's great. I just wish that the voice acting was better. That's literally my only gripe.
Well, that's okay. I can't wait to hear more about it as you finish playing it. So you got a week, Steven. Yeah. A week. Because come Friday, at least Friday, Saturday, maybe even Sunday, that's Anthem time. And I'm going hard. Yeah. All right. Okay, let's dive into some news. So the first thing I want to talk about is this new Frozen 2 trailer. First off, it's coming out in November now. So it's like not right around the corner, but very close. Like we're not going to have to wait a full year to see this movie.
Right.
So that's cool. That's fun. It looks really, really good. The opening scenes where Elsa is on the beach looks so good. It looks weird. Like the beach scene looks so photorealistic to me that Elsa looks out of place.
Right.
Anyway, looks like it's going to be really cool. Looks like Elsa is training to learn her powers better. I don't think she's actually trying to get anywhere on the ocean. I think she's just using that as a training ground. Could be totally wrong. But anyway, it looks like they're going on a journey to either find out what happened to their parents or find more people like Elsa and like just try to better understand her powers. I think it's one of those two things causes them to go, but both of those things are going to happen. So I don't know if they were like, hey, we need to go find our parents or like find out what happened to our parents, so let's go. Or if they were like, hey, we want to learn, and they say, hey, let's go, and then they find other people with powers. Or I don't know if they're going to be like, we need to find out why Elsa has these powers, and they end up learning more about why their parents died. I don't know. That's what that's where I think it's headed. There's a lot of really interesting second long scenes that happen. There's only a couple that I question and like really wonder like, whoa, what is happening here? The first, there's a shot of Elsa and Olaf inside of a fiery heart. And Elsa's like trying to ice it down and Olaf is like clinging to her. I don't know what's happening there, like on any stretch. I'm assuming they meet someone with fire powers based off of that. It could just be raw fire energy happening though. I don't know. The other scene that I keep pointing to and wanting to know what is this about is there's a scene, it's like the next to last scene before they show like the big, here's this wide open space and we're all headed that way. It's a scene with a young girl with red hair. It kind of looks like Anna at first glance, but it almost looks like if Anna and Merida had like a cousin, that was related to both of them. That's what she looks like. She's standing next to a bunch of leaves, and the leaves, they split as if something had moved really fast through them. But it doesn't look like there's there's not enough leaves piled up in that particular spot that they're flying under the leaves. However, in the next frame, it shows this person flying out of the leaves, and they're spinning as if they have air powers, but don't know how to use them. It looks to be a boy, from what I can tell, but it's a girl with red hair and a boy with blonde hair like Elsa's. That's the scene that I look at and say, there is so much potentially happening here. My first jump is, obviously, this dude has wind powers or some sort of ability like Elsa. The question is he related to her? Is he a love interest? Or is it something different? A lot of people think that the girl is Elsa's and Anna's mom, and the guy is their dad. And so their dad had wind powers. And this is some sort of flashback, travel through time thing where we're seeing that. I'm not exactly 100% on
This
that.
is Frozen.
Huh?
This is Frozen. Let's not turn it into Back to the Future.
I know. I don't think so. I think it's going to be more of a flashback.
Yeah.
I personally lean more towards, a lot of people think it's their parents. I think they're going to meet a brother and sister duo that the brother has powers and the sister doesn't. And it's kind of an Anna type of role. And so I think we're going to see a flashback to them playing together and having a life together that Elsa and Anna didn't have. Anyway, very interesting. Could go multiple ways. A lot of people think that the girl is going to end up being Elsa's love interest, which would make Elsa the first lesbian Disney princess or queen, whatever you want to call her, which would be crazy, which would be interesting. I personally think that Frozen likes to subvert your expectations, so I'm expecting more of an Incredibles 2 type situation here, where the brother is going to end up being her love interest, but the sister is going to be the bad guy somehow. But I don't know. I'm not sure what's going to happen. For all we know, they could meet someone who has fire abilities. They could meet someone who has earth ability. Like, who knows? Who knows what we're really going to see here? So I'm very curious to see it. Steven, have you even seen the trailer? Do you know anything I'm talking about?
I've seen parts of it, but I've never been a fan of Frozen to begin with, so I'm just gonna
Look, I love Tangled, but Frozen was good, especially the first time I saw it. It surprised me. So I'm excited to see what they'll do with Frozen 2. I don't think they can surprise any of us as well as they did in the first one, but I'm curious to see if they can try. Let's move on to something you might care a little bit more about, Steven. So Sony had announced earlier this year that they are not doing E3. They're not coming. They're skipping E3. Just basically saying, they're not really gonna. They didn't really say much at that first initial thing. They have said before that they're focusing on fewer but bigger games, like Spider-Man, like God of War. They're kind of headed towards that trajectory. Well, now Sean Layden has spoken to CNET basically about it, and the gist of what it is, he says that E3 has been going on for years the same way, even though the industry has kind of changed. E3 hasn't really changed with it. So he was saying, like, when it started out, it was this event where realtors and media outlets came together, and we had these big conferences to show realtors what they were going to be selling this year, and then media folks, this was their opportunity to see a lot and share a lot with their audiences. But he was like, but nowadays, I mean, he didn't mention Nintendo directly, but as an example to kind of say what he's saying, if you say, hey, we're going to have a direct today, people will know about it and will be there. And like that, he's just like, there's so much freedom to do announcements like that E3 doesn't really matter, which I disagree with personally, because I think there's a lot of fluff that happens with E3. So like, there's the phrase "all boats, all tides raise all boats" or something like that. Like it's a big time. I mean, it's gamer Christmas. So everybody kind of gets a piece of that pool, but the problem is they all want their own little piece. So anyway, he says that basically he's saying, they have this thing called Destination PlayStation, which is where they've been meeting with realtors now. Not a lot of news ever really comes out of Destination PlayStation. It's usually behind doors meetings with realtors and stuff like that. So he's like, we have this. That's where we're talking to them. And then he kind of said the media thing, he says like there's 24/7 news now on gaming. So like if we need to say something, it'll be heard. at any point. But anyway, he just kind of says like, so we're not coming back. And he also he says like, why does E3 have to be this big thing where we drop bombs and make announcements that are crazy? He was like, why can't it just be a fan event like Comic-Con? Which I look at him and I'm just kind of like, what are you talking about? Because like PAX East is kind of, or just PAX in general is kind of what that is, because there's not a ton of big announcements that happen, but it's open to the public. Developers are there. They have panels. I just and not only that, because he also talks about let's celebrate games. Like, to me, when we as a gaming community celebrate games is the Game Awards. Like, that's what that event to me is. It's like, hey, look at all the cool shit that happened this year. Let's celebrate it. Just like, man, video games are cool. Like, that's what that event is to me. So I don't know where he's getting the need for E3 to be a fan event. I don't know. What do you think about all this, Steven?
I think from a business standpoint, E3 may not make a lot of sense, but like from a consumer standpoint, E3 is such a big deal, and the consumer is who brings in the numbers for them,
right?
And for them to basically say like, oh yeah, we can kind of do our own thing. That's, I mean, companies can be like, hey, we're going to talk about what's going on in PlayStation or Nintendo this like every quarter or every 3 months or something like that. Well, actually, that is a quarter, every 4 months. Yeah, not more. But there's something special about being able to come together as a community, and everyone knows that it's coming.
Right.
Like, it's Gamer Christmas. It really is. That's a good way to put it. And also, like, when E3 is going on, that's when gaming entertainment makes news.
Right. It's public news. Like, people who don't care about gaming know that this is happening.
Right. And so, like, to kind of alienate that market that hasn't been tapped when gaming is becoming more and more of a casual thing, that just seems just not smart, not very thought out. So I'm hoping, like, I'm wondering, like, maybe Sony's just getting too comfortable.
Yeah, that's what I'm afraid too.
And that they feel like they don't really have to, raise their fists anymore and fight with the others, and they think that they're so far ahead that they kind of can do whatever they want. But
I look at it and I think it's I'm worried that PlayStation just doesn't have a lot to say anymore, because they're talking about. So one thing I've been thinking about this week is, Nintendo Directs are great. We get 4 or 5 a year, and they're huge moments for Nintendo because they talk about, hey, what's coming in the next 4 to 5 months, and here's everything you need to know. And then, they may have another Direct before some of those things even happen, and they're like, hey, here's an update on this thing that's coming in a few months, like in a month, or here's this thing that's happening now, and here's some things you're going to look forward to. I really like the Nintendo Directs. And Xbox does this thing called Xbox Live something. It's some live stream that they do. I think they do it once a month. And it's a live stream. So it's not as structured and as short as what Nintendo does. But they make smaller announcements. And then Sony kind of has the PlayStation blog where they'll post things pretty regularly about, upcoming games and things. I was thinking about what if, why don't Sony and Xbox create their own sort of Direct? Like that they could talk about third-party games that are coming to their systems and, their first-party things, give us some updates on those. But the more I thought about it, especially in the way of Xbox and Sony specifically, I just don't know that they would have that much stuff to say on a couple month basis, because like right now I know of like 4 games that Sony is like like major games that they're working on: Last of Us 2, Death Stranding, Ghost of Tsushima. What's the other one? There's another like big one.
Control,
Dreams.
Days Gone.
Dreams.
Dreams.
See, Control I think is a smaller, not a small title, but anyway, I don't know. But like, why don't they do something like that? But regardless, I think it's not even a question of is Sony gonna break off and do their own thing. I don't know that they're gonna do anything this year.
Right.
I mean, I think maybe we might see something. If we don't see something before June, I question if we'll see anything until like November from them. And I don't know if it's going to be a direct. I don't know if they're going to actually do PSX this year. I don't know what they're doing. It's a very confusing, ambiguous time for what is Sony going to do and when are we going to hear about Sony stuff again.
Right.
So I don't know. I'm nervous because it puts a lot of pressure. It doesn't put a lot of pressure on Microsoft, but even last year, you and I, we loved the Microsoft conference because more than half of the things they talked about were stuff that's coming to PlayStation.
Single game.
Yeah.
Yep.
So we were just excited. So now that's really what this next year is going to be. I feel like
that's why I think that E3 should just become more of a developer platform rather than a publisher platform. Like if they opened up the stage and didn't restrict it to Microsoft or Sony or Nintendo and were able to sponsor out developers or even publishers could pay for their moment on stage to talk about those games. Just make it like 3 days of press, 2 or 3 days of press conferences about various games.
Yeah.
That have no limitation of you're watching Microsoft, so these are the Xbox games, or you're watching Sony, so these are the PS4 games. That would just make more sense because then it does become less of a, the first parties have to worry about showing up and going big and creating a presentation that is all about PlayStation. And it could be more of what projects do we have ready? Okay, let's get them a 15-minute slot on E3 stage day 2. Something like that, so that it is all about the games and the first parties can worry about talking about their stuff, hardware or whatever else, on their own time. Yeah. And E3 can just be about the games because E3 is good for the consumer base. Yeah. Like if you're a gamer, you always look forward to E3. It doesn't matter if E3 just ended. You're looking forward to it. That's
an interesting take. So basically E3 has a stage and basically from 8 o'clock to whenever it closes, we just have panel after panel after panel of here's our game.
Like the way Microsoft did it is what got me thinking about this. Make it to where you've got like a 2-3 hour slot that is like the morning press conference, for example, maybe on day one, and you can developers can get a spot, whether it's through a sponsorship or through just like paying the E3 organization for that 15 minutes.
Yeah,
it's kind of like Super Bowl ads. They're really expensive, but companies pay for it because that's marketing. Being on the E3 stage is about as marketable as you can get in the video game industry. So let's say the developer of Dying Light 2, they want a 15-minute slot, whether it's 5 minutes to show a trailer or 10 minutes or 15 minutes to show gameplay or whatever. They can pay for that slot, be up there, show a trailer, do their thing, and then be done, but they will still have their panel at E3 beyond the press conferences. So the press conferences themselves could be about the developers and what they're working on, and it can be, this is what's coming. If you want to see more, we've got a booth. So you both meet that expectation of people watching online as well as the expectation of the vendors that are attending the event. That just makes so much sense to me, and I don't know why we're not doing it.
Dude, it's a great time. It's a great time to be alive, and who knows what's going to happen. We're just going to have to see how this year goes, and I think whatever we see this year is going to be strange, and next year it's going to be completely different. So it'll be interesting. But all right, we're running short on time, so we're going to
Yeah.
talk about the Nintendo Direct. We're just going to hit some highlights because there was a lot of news, there was a lot of announcements. I just want to hit some highlights. So Mario Maker 2, it's a sequel to Mario Maker coming, adding slopes, big deal for people who like that game. I was never a Mario Maker person. I'm probably not going to get this one, but I'm excited for those people. They talked about Fire Emblem Three Houses. It's apparently Hogwarts and Harry Potter.
Yeah, if I may.
Yeah, you go ahead. You're gonna have more to think about this than I do. I was just
the
confused.
The gameplay looks really cool. It looks nothing like Fire Emblem.
Right.
Like hear me say that. Like I was confused. But it looks great from a gameplay standpoint because there seems to be a lot of customization and character depth and stuff.
Yeah.
But from a story standpoint, it feels like a cheesy anime.
Yeah, a little bit.
And so I'm worried about the story, but I'm really excited to play it and get my hands on it.
Yeah.
So we'll see. And it's coming out in July.
Yeah.
26th, I think.
Platinum announced a new Switch exclusive, Astral Chain. Sorry.
Yeah. Yu-Gi-Oh! Police, as I like to call it.
Yu-Gi-Oh! Police. That was a great name. You and Brody were like pumped about this while we were watching this. I was immediately like tuned out. Don't care. I saw
Platinum
later a gif of the guy summoning a wolf in a fight, and I kind of was like, oh. But overall, I was just kind of like, what is this? But you guys were freaking out. What did you like so much about that, Steven?
Well, my thing, I wasn't freaking out as much as Brody was because Platinum, they did Nier Automata, I believe. Mm-hmm. So like they do fighter games like no one's business. They're really good at that.
Right.
But what had me excited was the concept of, one of my favorite archetypes in MMOs is a pet ranger.
Right.
Being a character that acts like you control the character, but also you can control another thing on the map. So you're basically two people at once. Mm-hmm. This looks like a fighter game that's kind of like that, just being two people at once. And that kind of play style seems interesting to me.
Yeah.
The style of play looked kind of cool. There were some cool moves. Like, I don't know if I'll get it, but I'm always excited with new IPs. I love to see creativity flourish. And so to see that new IP and see it as creative looking as it was, I'm always excited for that, even if it's an Xbox game.
Yeah.
So to me, that was just kind of like, okay, this looks really cool. I'd love to see more. I just love to see non-battle royale IPs being made.
Tetris BR, or Tetris 99.
Shut up.
They announced that. Honestly, I was really excited about this. Like this announcement kind of like made my jaw drop, and I got excited. Captain Toad Treasure Tracker is getting a free co-op update.
That's cool. That's really cool.
That is really cool. So no longer will the second player just be like a little icon that can shoot tomatoes at enemies. You actually are playing now. So like Lee Allison and I are talking about trying to do a Let's Play with that now, where now she will get to play instead of in the first stream that we did where she just kind of shot tomatoes at things. Right. The demo for Daemon X Machina came out. And for Yoshi's Crafted World. I haven't gotten Yoshi's Crafted World yet. I think I'm going to play that one to see, like, am I going to get this game or not? Because I still haven't really made a decision.
So but, you need to do that with Daemon X Machina as well.
Too, yeah. Steven, talk a little bit about that. You played it. What do you were, like, really excited about it.
So Armored Core was a game that I played back in the PS2 days. And carried over into the Xbox 360 days. You pilot a big mech, you can customize it, choose what kind of head model, arms model, leg model, chest model, shoulder weapons, left and right weapons, all that kind of stuff. You basically were creating your own mech, creating your own play style, and it was awesome. This is that if it was Armored Core the anime, but the game based on the Armored Core anime. Like,
right.
It was really cool, really fun. It's basically Armored Core, but the customization looks awesome. You can actually get out of your mech, which is a stupid idea, and I learned that firsthand. But you can. It's co-op.
I like that they added that though. Like I think that's just hilarious. Like you can get out of your mech if you want to. It's a horrible idea, but you can.
Well, I mean, if your mech gets destroyed, you can bail. Like you can continue the fight on foot. And actually, if you play in co-op, I think your partner can revive your mech. So, like, if you went down, I could work on getting currency to revive you, and you could cover me on foot with, like, a rocket launcher. Or, yes, your character on foot has a sword if you upgrade that.
I'm so doing that. I'm gonna get so good that I can do that.
Yeah, let me know how that works out for you. Okay. but it just, the gameplay was just really solid. There was one cool thing I did where that you get a boss fight as the 4th mission, and it's in like a desert map. And I was doing cool things where I was on the ground and I was skimming with my boosters, dodging missiles and stuff, and I was underneath it and I pulled up my 2 guns and I just started firing up at its weak points.
Yeah.
And just it was so cool, just for like you're piloting a mech, and it makes you feel like you're piloting a mech, and like it's just one of those cool things. Like, you can do really neat maneuvers. You can like bail some of your excess equipment. If you're like, if you bring like 2 rocket launchers on your back just in case, and you realize, oh shoot, this enemy mech I'm fighting is way faster than me, you can bail those rocket launchers and you'll be faster. So
that's
like
crazy.
You can.
That's really, really cool.
Yeah. It's very in depth with the customization, and you can kind of adapt on the fly. Based on those kinds of things. And so like playing it was really cool. I can't wait for the co-op. I hope it's full story co-op. That is a game that I didn't know I needed until I saw the trailer last year.
Right.
And my reaction video to that trailer is pretty hilarious, because it was like somebody made a trailer for me and was watching my reaction, because I had never heard of this thing. And I'm watching it, and it's just, metal music just shredding on the guitar, mechs flying everywhere, and I was just like, tell me what this game is, and then everything got quiet, and you just see Daemon X Machina. Yeah. It was like, oh, thank you. Thank you. Yeah, but the music's really cool. It's like playing a Devil May Cry game, pretty much, which is awesome. But yeah, definitely recommend it to anyone who owns a Switch. The demo is free. It's 4 missions. You can replay them. It's a blast. It really is.
I'm going to have to try it out. They announced a lot of other stuff. There's a lot of third-party games coming. The Assassin's Creed 3, Dead by Daylight, lots of other things. They talked about a new Square Enix RPG. They talked about a lot of the Final Fantasy games coming up. They spent way too much time talking about Dragon Quest XI. There's a lot of great stuff they announced. The only other thing that I really want to spend time on, especially since we're running a little long, they announced Legend of Zelda Link's Awakening remake happening this year. So that's probably awesome. Going to be November if I had to just take a guess. This looks so cool. Right. It is the Game Boy game, completely remade, completely, everything's 3D. It's got this weird depth of field effect that I don't really like. I'm hoping you'll be able to turn that off in a setting somewhere. But I'm genuinely excited to try it, and I want to play it because it's an old Zelda game that I haven't gotten a chance to play yet. Like when they remake Ocarina of Time, I'll finally be able to play that one, because I didn't play that. The first one I ever played was Wind Waker, so I've got a long back history of stuff. I've played Majora's Mask, but I haven't played Ocarina of Time. Like, that's the weird holes I have. But anyway, I haven't played any of the 3DS or Game Boy Zelda games, so I'm really excited about that one. Brody was freaking out while we were watching it because he thought he saw water and a boat and thought Wind Waker, but I was just like, it's so off from Wind Waker's style that there's no way. But if you watch the opening to Link's Awakening on the 3D on the Game Boy, it looks, I mean, it's shot for shot identical to this. And it's so interesting because they kept a lot of the same feel and style, but added like this storybook anime style that also feels very connected to Breath of the Wild as well. Yeah. Which I think is just a really cool thing that they can kind of connect a lot of threads throughout all of that. Yeah. But anyway, really excited for that one. A lot of good stuff come to Switch. And that's not even, we didn't hear anything about Animal Crossing. We didn't hear anything about Luigi's Mansion. We didn't hear about Pikmin. A lot of people thought we'd hear about Pikmin. There's a ton that's still left to happen this year for Nintendo.
Honestly, the most underappreciated part, and I just feel like I have to mention this, of the entire Direct was the guy doing the headlines. Because he just was so chipper about everything he read. And there was the Starlink announcement. The part that cracked me up the most was when he was reading the Starlink thing where you have to go up against Wolf's crew, and he's like, fight Wolf's crew as they hunt you down like the dogs you are. Like, it was so funny.
Oh, we love you, Nintendo.
I loved it.
You.
You're great.
Hey everybody, thanks for watching this episode of ChortleCast. We do hope you've enjoyed it. If you did, there's a couple things you can do to help us out. Number one, if you're on YouTube, you're already at chortlegames.com. You can like this video, share it with your friends, leave us a comment, let us know what you thought about all the topics we talked about today. If you're an audio listener, you're listening on iTunes. Sorry, I'm trying to get us on other things. I'm trying to get us to Spotify and other services like TuneIn.
Yeah.
I'm working on it. It's coming. But if you're listening through iTunes, the best thing you can do for us is leave a review on iTunes. That really helps people find the channel or the podcast. You can be a part of the show by writing in at ChortleGames or ChortleCast@gmail.com. You can let us know topics you'd like to hear us talk about, news stories you've heard about in the week. You can send those to us, questions you might have for us. You can send it that way. You can also get in our Discord, which you can get to in the description of this video or this podcast. You can also find it in our channel banner, again, chortlegames.com. You can comment there. We have a whole channel dedicated to podcast stuff, so if you got news stories you want us to hear about, you can do that there. And then you can also follow us on Facebook and Twitter at Chortle Games for both of those, and you can keep up with us. So anyway, Steven, thanks for joining. Thanks for being a part. It's been a good week. Been a good long week. We got some great content coming up for you this week. This is Anthem week, everybody. So everybody buckle down, get excited, get pumped for Friday and Saturday, because it's going to be Anthem.
Yep.
You're watching this podcast Monday at 12 o'clock Central Time. Tonight, Steven is going to be playing some Division 1 with Friendly Fire Games, one of our friend channels that we have not played with in a long time. So
yeah, that's the plan.
That's the
As
plan.
we're recording this, the plan has not changed.
Yeah.
So
the plan is tonight, Steven is going to be streaming Division with them. Or actually, I guess it's just one of them, because one of them's really wanting to...
It'll be my brother,
Andrew.
Andrew.
So anyway, they're going to be playing that. Tune in for that if you want to see that. Tuesday, we are unfortunately not going to be able to do Team Up Tuesday because I will be out of town. And I am in a situation where I cannot bring anything that I can actually stream with Steven. So, Steven is going to be doing Uncharted Tuesday night. 4. Uncharted 4, continuing through that.
Yep.
Wednesday, we'll have a Let's Play for you. We're going to do this little game called Override Mech City. It's a game where multiple people can be controlling one mech. So Steven and I learned about teamwork and kicking sludge monsters in the face and the importance of kicking and punching at the same time. So anyway, it's going to be great fun. You'll see a lot of interesting things there. Thursday, Steven is also going to be solo because I will be getting back from my trip that night. Steven is the current plan is play Uncharted, but maybe Metro, depending on where everything lands. So if you want to see Metro or Uncharted again, maybe put something in our Discord or tweet us at us somewhere and let us know, and that might influence that decision. And then, of course, Friday and Saturday, we're going to be streaming Anthem. So you'll be able to see, we'll be going through the story. We'll be building our mechs together. We'll probably do a lot of side quest stuff because Steven and you and I both kind of play games where we want to level up as quickly as possible and get as much gear as we can. So we're going to be figuring out what that is and start doing it.
Come watch me try really hard to make the Ranger a good class.
So are you going to try to stick with the Ranger early on?
I am going to try to stick with the Ranger because my thought is if I can get good gear for it consistently, one of us is going to need to stay the Ranger to be more effective at
early
level
on.
12.
Yeah, because at some point someone's going to switch and then we're all going to be level 1
everyone's going to
again.
switch from the Ranger. Yeah, so no one wants to be the Ranger. So I honestly want to make it work, so I'm going to make it work. That is my personal challenge, make the Ranger work.
I'm glad you have a personal challenge and you're ready to do it. So it's going to be a lot of that this weekend. And probably, honestly, that'll probably end up being what our Team Up Tuesday or Thursday next week will end up being, at least one time Anthem. So anyway, I hope you're excited for Anthem. I sure am. Thank you for watching. Thank you for being with us, Steven. Thank you for being here again. And ladies and gentlemen, we'll see you next time. Bye-bye.